Hey gang, what is going on? You are here with us at the Square Roundtable. Ryan, Keith, Juan. The Square Roundtable is the show where we break down one specific topic. If you want us to talk about Raw, SmackDown, recent events, definitely make sure to check out our podcast, available every single Tuesday night right here on the channel. And with this episode, we're going to start a mini-series as of sorts because, of course, we've talked about the greatest of all time. We've gone all the way up there, guys. We've done it. And now we're just going to, scrape the bottom of the barrel with what we got here.
Let's get back down to earth a little bit and talk about the real stuff.
Exactly. So for every great storyline, there are those that make us go, why? Why do we even watch this? So I got a selected 5 that we analyzed and made sure they are the coup de grace of the worst. So let's actually just kick it off immediately. With this one, people still talk about it today, even if they didn't watch it live. And that is, of course, Katie Vick. I don't think a name has ever meant so much in the world of wrestling. Of course, just for a little bit of context, Katie Vick, the storyline was that Kane had this girlfriend in the past, way back in the day, and he was in a really dark moment. He basically apparently killed her, and then Triple H found out, and then proceeded to, simulate a little bit of necrophilia action going on, with some grabbing of the dead boobs and doing other things that I don't want to get to right now. And judging by your faces, I can tell you just love to remember that storyline, the type of storyline that when a family member comes in, you're just like, I'm watching wrestling. This is what wrestling is. What do you guys take away from Katie Vick?
The thing that's gone through my head thousands of times at this point is, what was that creative meeting like? I really just would love to be a fly on the wall. Okay, we've got this feud. We've got Kane versus Triple H. Triple H, our #1 guy, and we need to add some spice to it. So let's bring in an old girlfriend, but she's passed away and she's dead. So let's have Triple H have her way with her. Who thinks that's a good idea? Really?
That seems something out of Fight Night, not Raw.
I think even our standards are a little higher than that when it comes to Fight Night. Let's be real here for a moment. But it's so weird, even if you think about Triple H from that time. He was feuding with people like Scott Steiner, Kevin Nash. It's looked at by a lot of people as the low point in Triple H's career. And that is basically the low point of the low point, that they would even do something like that.
It was a very interesting storyline for sure. I mean, that's an understatement. And this was what, 2003-ish, I want to say? Around this time. I was probably in middle school or something.
Yeah, we had to be around 13, 14, yeah.
Yeah, so I was around that age. So maybe I actually thought the segment with Triple H was funny. Okay, I might have been in that, that minority of people that actually thought it was funny. Did I think the whole storyline was a home run? Absolutely not. I mean, it was just kind of a throwaway title feud for Triple H to have. Just to, keep his title reign going. And they just have a thing where, Kane crashed his car and killed this girl or whatever. And I don't know, I screwed your braids out. It was in totally horrible, bad taste. But as a 13-year-old kid, that stuff's kind of funny. And maybe that was just, they thought that it would appeal to that demographic. I don't endorse it, but I'm just saying, as an immature kid, that might be the only person who would find it entertaining.
My favorite part of that was after they played, obviously, the infamous segment, is Triple H's laughter after he was being interviewed by a coach, where he was just like, ah! He was like a vampire or something like that. Because, of course, people remember more just that segment rather than the entire storyline, because I think it was very much a throwaway. Like you said, Ryan, it was Triple H needed something to do. They wanted to make something outrageous. And I think that era, I think the storyline definitely shows that for everything that people say, Attitude Era, that's when it was edgy. I mean, you got necrophilia going on in the Ruthless Aggression era.
There's good edgy and there's bad edgy. That was not good edgy. That was dumb.
A lot of the Ruthless Aggression era was just kind of a continuation of that immaturity without the kind of like the society
there was nothing to really like balance it out. Like for every of that dumb immaturity, you had something like raw and real. Like, yeah, this is why I like wrestling.
But probably like you have to give Triple H credit because he in no way probably had to do that storyline. I mean, the guy was like basically set for life in the company at this point. You know, multi-time champion with Stephanie McMahon. There's no need to like really put yourself on the line and do something this controversial. So I give Triple H so much credit for just going along with it when he probably did not have to.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't think about that. A type of storyline like that would never happen nowadays, but it had to have that, you know, the crazy comedic feel. It would definitely not be the champion of the company doing that. It would be maybe IC title, US title, but to have Triple H, who's the champion, do stuff like that, that was pretty crazy. So Katie Vick, we can just agree, is probably just best served in the past and not remembered all that much. So let's see here. What else do we got going on right now? Plenty of storylines. Let's get to...
Hold on. One moment.
Okay, did I forget to play my electricity bill?
No, actually, but I have received a email from the anonymous general manager saying, and I quote, "When talking about some of the worst in wrestling, I should be on this list." End
hey,
quote.
What do you know?
I know, it's like he knew.
Yeah, it's almost like it was planned. Wow. Mm-hmm. It's awesome. Okay, so, yeah, of course.
So this is why we don't do bits, folks.
Yeah. So up next, we do have the anonymous GM storyline. Just for quick context, this storyline, and we have some things in the description box, so you can definitely get more information if you didn't watch the storyline back then, or, of course, check it out in the network. It happened all the way back in 2010 after Bret Hart was fired as the general manager. Michael Cole was, of course, the heel commentator at that point, and then they introduced the Raw GM, which was a computerized voice via laptops, would send emails and all these messages, basically playing like a heel, and then sometimes like a face, but basically the GM got more leeway than any other GM in history. Now, off air, Keith and I were talking about this before we started, and I think that one of the key points to talk about here, since we're talking about the worst, is not necessarily the anonymous GM, but sort of how that ended. Yeah. Where this lasted a long time. It started, just in case, June 21st, 2010, and ended in July 2011. It lasted a year.
Is that the longest GM run in Raw history?
Well, Eric Bischoff had a hell of a run.
Oh, yeah, never mind. Eric Bischoff, you're totally right about that. But yeah, I think it's important to mention that we're not talking about the whole Raw GM thing as a whole. It was more the payoff, how through the entire thing they were teasing who this Raw general manager might be. Like, I remember there was one time where he ended an email with, "and that's the bottom line," and they were kind of teasing with Stone Cold and that kind of stuff. But then when we finally decide or like learn who it was just Hornswoggle with a laptop.
Yeah, we complain on the podcast always about how they have these storylines and they drop it. Wow, this is the prime example, probably.
This is like atomic bomb levels of dropped.
Yeah.
Really.
Did you watch this storyline when it happened, Ryan?
I was able to kind of tune in here and there. I wasn't really watching wrestling religiously at this point, but I think
good choice.
They weren't the best years. I mean, I missed a few good things, but one of the things that, you know, just the anonymous GM thing in general this was when like Cole was just at his like most insufferable point where
yes.
He was just so annoying and he had so much heat because it was like real hate of just how annoying he was. It's like you get that stupid ringtone going off, and then all of a sudden Michael Cole steps up and like is just saying, you know,
says
and
the exact same thing. Yes, like, excuse me, I have a email just from the
everything about it just boiled your blood. And then when they finally give you a payoff, it's just a throwaway gag with Hornswoggle on, I think it was Raw 1000 is when they did it.
Yep.
And so there you go. It's like they piss you off for an entire year, and then like they address it like a year after it ends in just a throwaway gag. So it's just kind of like, it's not so much like cringe bad like Katie Vick, it's just like insulting.
Mm-hmm.
No, and it's to note, the way we're talking about it, it's almost as if it had a beginning and an end. The GM was completely phased out for a while, and then they just sort of brought him back, and then
like
announced
almost
it was
a full year
Hornswoggle.
later after it ended.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, actually, it ended. The phasing out happened in July 2011, and it wasn't until July 9th, 2012, then it was revealed that it was Hornswoggle. So it took 2 years, 2 freaking years, to figure out that the GM was Hornswoggle.
So disappointing.
Which I'm sure along the lines, granted, I didn't watch that time period, but I'm sure Hornswoggle, there's probably some way that conflicts with like Hornswoggle during that time of the anonymous GM. Like maybe he was out there or something when they announced it.
At least it had to happen at least
I doubt
once.
like that it is flawlessly makes sense that it was Hornswoggle. Like someone could probably go back and pinpoint where that doesn't make sense.
Just so much doesn't make sense. And I actually want to go from a storyline that didn't really conclude to one that definitively concluded because somebody
the
died in
ultimate
it.
conclusion, one might say.
Yeah, there was death involved in the storyline. Now, we went from 2012 to now 2003. Let's go to SmackDown. Ruthless Aggression Era. SmackDown at this point, people definitely loved it. You had a stacked roster, great storylines. But then there was this storyline featuring Tori Wilson, Dawn Marie, and Tori Wilson's storyline father, Al Wilson. So what happened was that they had this tag team match that was happening, and then Dawn Marie always had this, is she a lesbian? Is she attracted to Tori or not thing going on? So then Dawn Marie proceeded to persuade Al Wilson, Tori's father, to fall in love with her, potentially get married. And then in that process, she manipulated Tori, saying, hey, if you don't want me to marry him, all you got to do is spend a night with me in the hotel. That's all I want. And then to conclude, what ended up happening...
God, isn't wrestling the best?
Yeah. I mean, I'm not done. I mean, for people listening to the first time, I actually want to know, do you think this is real, that we're making this up right now? Because what happened was that Al Wilson gets married, and his storyline death is that during the honeymoon, he was doing the hibbity-dibbity so much with Dawn Marie that he had a heart attack, was oversexed, and died. What? I mean, how can we make this up? Who watched this as it happened? I did. Anybody else here?
I was watching SmackDown at the time, but this is actually this is a segment or a storyline I remember coming in and seeing the video packages as they were kind of just moving past that point. I must have just I missed those main build-up parts, but then kind of came into the story when Tori and Dawn were feuding and they were showing all the Al Wilson stuff. But it was just all just cringy, definitely Attitude Era feel to it. But like I said, kind of past its time.
I kind of want to bring up a thing that we talked about during the Katie Vick thing, because I think this actually kind of shares a lot of, let's say, plot similarities in the way that if you want to talk about the Attitude Era, that was the good edgy. And this ended up in the ruthless.
Even then, not everything was gold.
Not everything was gold, but we had the examples of good edgy. But this was another one of those things in the Ruthless Aggression Era that was the bad edgy, where they tried to recapture that and just ended up sinking miserably. Just maybe it was another one of those things that was great on paper, like Triple H doing the hibbity jibbity with a corpse. Let's have Dawn Marie.
2003 was such a weird year.
It's so weird.
Now I understand why I was so ashamed. I remember when these storylines were happening, I would stay over at my family's house in Chicago and just, I'd be watching wrestling by myself, but whenever these freaking storylines went on, magically the family showed up. And it was me just trying to explain that.
That's pretty much exactly whenever I was watching wrestling and my sister would like see me watching wrestling, it was always when Rikishi was on doing the stink face. Like seriously, it was timed out perfectly. So it always just looked like I was just watching Rikishi matches all the time.
She wanted to see that ass get backed up, man.
Yeah, apparently.
Put a little ass on it.
So yeah, I think that people, do yourself a favor, go on YouTube, which you're technically there right now, and just search. Yeah.
Favor.
Yes, do yourself a favor and check out the storyline. I mean, it's ridiculous. Now, up next, we have... Where is the list? I lost it, actually. Okay,
Kiss
here
My
we
Ass
go.
Club.
You know, for one, losing that, I think you need to join the inaugural Byte That Kiss My Ass
Whose
Club.
ass am I kissing, though? I mean, I'm not kissing either.
Oh.
No. Chicken shot, maybe. I mean, maybe delicious. Okay, let's just go here.
Moving on.
Kiss
That's why we
My
don't
Ass
do
Club.
bits.
So what happened here is now we keep going back in time. Let's go all the way back to 2001. Invasion angle ends. Thankfully, I was so happy that ended. And then Vince McMahon was thinking, okay, so I have these WCW and ECW guys in here. I don't know who I'm gonna keep, so I'm just gonna have people kiss my ass. And then whoever can kiss my ass, maybe they'll keep their job. And of course, one of the inaugural. Thank you, inaugural. What the hell was that? Members is William Regal. What you guys remember? I'm going to take this to you, Ryan. You were talking about Rikishi. He's been involved in this process a little bit. What's your take on the kiss my ass storyline evolution?
I remember the William Regal, like I remember watching that live, the William Regal Kiss My Ass Club. It was just ridiculous. I mean, like I said, kind of like the Katie Vick thing. As a like 13-year-old, I thought it was pretty hilarious that like even then I was like, this is the like the chairman of the board. This is like the head of WWE, and he's going out there and making people kiss his ass. And the fact that William Regal, I think, was the only one who did it under his own power. It was just like, it really was just like, wow, this is just. It is a weird feeling, but you're just like, wow, anything really can happen in this WWE sometimes.
Actually, there was one second person that willingly joined the club, and that was Mick Foley all the way back in 2006. I don't know if you guys remember that. And that was pathetic. So what happened was that in social media, it was known that Mick Foley supported Melina a lot, and they brought that into the Vince McMahon storyline. So there was a rumor that Vince wanted to fire Melina, so Mick Foley came out. It's like, I'll join your Kiss My Ass Club if you keep her job. So he kissed.
Was this when Foley was like a commentator on SmackDown?
No, he was just. This
might have
around
been during
06.
that era. Was this during the era where he had the I Quit match with Ric Flair?
Somewhere around that time, yeah, near. So what happened was that he kissed Vince's ass, Melina low-blowed him, and then Vince McMahon fired Mick Foley. I mean, everything went down the drain for him.
I remember that.
Wow.
But the Kiss My Ass Club.
Kissed. Oh, man.
Kiss My Ass Club is something, all right. It was all right, especially the William Regal thing. It was, like you said, it was just dumb toilet humor in a quite literal sense. But it was one of those things that just wrestling like amplified and made so much worse, because not only do you have the chairman of the board on TV, I think he was wearing like a man thong that day, just like rolling up drops trow in the middle of the ring, but you just have the commentators making all these dumb butt puns and like Vince McMahon like really getting into it. It's just one of those things
laughter.
That only happens in wrestling, and I don't know if that's for the best.
Yeah, I don't really get long-term why they thought this was a good idea. This seems almost the concept of like, hey, it'd be funny, people kiss my ass. Hey, let's do it, because why not? It was something that maybe didn't have too much thought put into it. And yeah, I'm just glad that didn't really
outright buried a lot of people too. I mean,
exactly.
Like making Mick Foley look like crap. I think JR was like forced to kiss his ass.
Yeah,
it was just like, you really just kick a person when they're down. Like I think
like, what is the benefit?
JR's whole
wasn't JR like
career.
fired that way or something
Yep.
too?
Yeah.
Like it's just like super insult to injury, and then they're real. It's like I think JR was like really fired during that time. Like
I think
it's
you're
like,
right.
That's
Right, didn't
intense.
JR
you know? That's just
tweet,
like
of course-
bad taste.
Yeah, of course, we don't really know
many
what
ways.
actually happened, but I do remember that JR tweeted afterwards, like, oh, so it really was fired. Because then after that, we didn't really see JR. So
Was Twitter
goes to
around?
show.
then?
No. Twitter, he went through time and tweeted it
Yeah.
out, yes.
So we go from
Moving
Vince
on.
McMahon to Vince McMahon, because he's been involved in some questionable storylines. So in around 2006, I want to say, 2007, he had a storyline with Shawn Michaels. Shane McMahon was actually still in the WWE at this point. Feels like forever, right? And then Vince McMahon basically kept poking fun of the fact that Shawn Michaels declared himself to be a born-again Christian, of course. You know, back in the day with DX, he was so controversial and all that. Now he's like squeaky clean. So he said that in a pay-per-view, he was going to have a tag team match. And then Shawn Michaels, it was going to be a handicap match, but no. You know, he's got the greatest tag team partner of all time. Of all time. God. Just God was in wrestling. And, you know, he proceeded to then give his music to Brodus Clay. You know, we can talk about that in a future video.
Inherited from Ernest the Cat Miller.
Exactly.
Don't forget
that music just never ends.
Wait, God came out to Funk is on a roll?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No way.
It's
Yeah.
honestly like,
Oh,
from a religious standpoint, one of the most insulting things that's ever happened in
Are you
wrestling.
sure?
It started out, it
Oh,
did.
yeah.
Because it started out with like holy hymn, like ah,
Yeah.
and then Vince was in the ring like, God, you're on my show, you're gonna do it right. So they had like the spotlight move back and forth a little bit, and then like
Vince
Funk
started
is on a
dancing.
roll, yeah. So it was
We'll watch it after this. We gotta
Gives
watch
God
it
a
after.
dancing gimmick.
probably one of the most insensitive things to ever happen in wrestling. Like even before that match, like Vince McMahon would go to churches and be like, God, if you really want to fight me, strike me down where I stand in the middle of this cathedral.
And then
It
Shane
was-
like moved to the side.
yeah, then Shane
I
would like,
remember
move
that.
to the side. Yeah.
You know, isn't it ridiculous how Vince McMahon is the person that has probably had the most controversial and or insulting things, yet, you know, less than 10 years later, the company, complete 180, it's just completely different. With the storyline, as you mentioned, Keith, it was highly insulting because, of course, we're not going to get into religious debate here, but just the ridiculousness of your storyline involves God, and then, of course, those people that, you know, incredibly respect that, you have him come out like that, and then just the whole showcase, you're mocking Shawn. And I think it's a case in point where we get it. You know, we can somehow get how that may be funny or something, but is it really worth it to do something like that? Do you guys think when a storyline is as insulting or can be as insulting as that, if it has a good payoff, it's justifiable?
Not really, because it's just in bad taste, and it's never maybe like you'll get some people to, you might get a few extra viewers just because it's like controversial.
Yeah, because it's cutting
But
edge. Yeah.
I don't think it's really gonna make you look too good in the end. I mean, it was hilarious when Vince was just yelling, I beat God, but other than that, it's like the amount of people you're going to offend, I think, is going to outweigh the amount of viewers gained, if any, from this storyline.
And plus, I think that it's very good that it happened when it did. Because imagine in this social media world we live in today,
man.
if something like that happened, it would be the firestorm of firestorms. It's just something that couldn't happen anymore. And
Watch
maybe
God
that's
in the
for
network,
best.
Moggle.
You can actually, I don't think they've censored that in any way. You could
Yeah,
probably
you
go back
technically
and
can watch it. Yeah.
watch God on the WWE network.
Yeah, so
If I just search God, will that match come up?
Actually,
Only
that's a
one way
really
to
good
find
question.
out.
Yeah. We got to do some research after this. But yeah, that has been it for this edition of the Square Roundtables. To close out, we talked about 5 storylines: Katie Vick, the anonymous GM, Al Wilson, the Kiss My Ass Club, and of course, Vince versus God. He mocked God. He mocked God.
Oh, I'm so happy we got that in there.
Yeah, we needed to close it off with that. So definitely give us your suggestions. We want to make this a mini series that every now and then we go back to, because wrestling does have not just 5 terrible and or cruel and or insulting, we can keep going storylines. There are plenty of those. So make sure you subscribe to the channel. Give us a thumbs up if you like this video. Let us know if you watched any of these storylines, or if you have any recommendations for storylines we got to bring up for a future episode. Definitely leave those in the comment section, and check out the podcast available every single Tuesday night. We got a lot of stuff in the channel, including the Fight Nights, our fantasy wrestling league, which Keith is our anonymous GM of that.
Exactly. I don't need no text tones nor no emails. I get out there and I just lay the facts down as I see them, and the way that they make me money.
Yes, sir. So that has been it. So until next time, thanks for watching, and we'll be back, and we will be back.
Be back.
Byte that.